my V2 fell over and I was out of Bondo. Hey friends, it's the Rocket Noob, and on this channel we talk about model rockets and high power rockets, building them, flying them, and I have a little bit of a problem. I was building the Estes V2. It's a kit that I've wanted to build for a long time, and it was going great. You know, I got all the spiral grooves filled in, I got the balsa all filled in nicely, I shaped the fins, I even cut them down so that they're more scale-like, I built these little details on them. And then I went to put primer on, and I sprayed it full of primer. It was a perfectly windless day, almost. I put my little painting rod in my stand, and I went inside, and a little gust of wind came and knocked the whole thing over. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but some of the fins, the ends got chewed up a little bit. You know, I tell you what, when you fly model rockets, you're going to have some damage. You're going to have fins that get chewed up and beat up. This big Bertha that I've had for years, for example, has lots of little chips out of the fins, and that's fine because I've flown it. You're going to get damage when you fly. But there's something that just really, just eats away at you when you are building a rocket and the rocket gets damaged before you're even done building and painting it. But fortunately, a lot of these things can be fixed. Now, there's a product that a lot of us like to use to fix little imperfections, fill in flaws in balsa grain and things like that when these things come up, and that is Bondo Glazing and Spot Putty. But there are a couple of different formulations of Bondo Glazing and Spot Putty, and the one you want is number 907. Now, I didn't know that, and my Bondo had gone bad. I hadn't used it in such a long time that it had basically cured in the tube. It was useless. So I ordered some online because I didn't want to go out, and I got the wrong kind. The kind you want comes in one tube. It's a rust-colored putty. You smear it on, you let it cure, you sand it off. No big deal. Now this is the professional glazing and spot putty. It's a two-part, and you have to mix it. You got this little tube of hardener and the big tube of this white goop, and you have to mix them together, and I don't want to do that. Who wants to do that? Bondo's great because you can use it for a lot of different things. Like I say, you can fix imperfections in your wood grain on your fins. This is a nose cone for my super big Bertha, and you can see plastic nose cones have two halves, and they don't always match up perfectly. So sometimes you'll have a little ridge or a little dip, and you just smear a little on there, and then you let it cure and you sand it smooth. So then when you paint that and you prime that, it's going to be perfectly smooth. You're not going to see where the two halves are. I ordered the wrong stuff. I went to a hardware store, they didn't have any. So today, I decided to go to an auto parts store and try and find some Bondo. And I went to the auto parts store, went to the bodywork section, and they did have glazing and spot putty, but they did not have Bondo. All they have is something called Evercoat. Like with Bondo, they had several formulations. This is the single part glazing and spot putty. They also had a two-part glazing and spot putty with a hardener and you had to mix it together. Is it wise for me, when money's a little tight and inflation's out of control, to switch from a product that I know to a product I don't know? Probably not, but I want to fix this V2. So I went ahead and bought some. It's 10 bucks a tube. I don't know what this stuff's going to look like. The guy in the store assured me it's basically the same stuff. I did Google it while I was in the aisle because I thought, well, why buy this stuff when I have a phone and I can Google it? So I Googled Evercoat versus Bondo. Very first result I got said, Evercoat is great, Bondo sucks. There are two things I'd say about that. First of all, this is someone else's opinion. So Bondo people, don't get mad at me. I think your product's great. At least for my purposes, it's great. It's wonderful. Also, that's from 2009. So grain of salt, companies change their formulations all the time. Let's take a look at this Evercoat glazing and spot putty and see if it's comparable to the Bondo and, you know, see how it works. All right, we are going to check out this putty. And if all goes well, we're going to fix up this V2. So I want to see what this stuff looks like. The putty that I'm used to, the Bondo, is a rust-colored, very thick putty. I anticipate this is probably going to look very much the same. Just open that up. So we got our tube of glazing and spot putty. Got my V2. Got a little bit of sandpaper, scrap of cardstock, a stick. This is a coffee stir stick, and a bit of paper towel. So first thing I want to do is I want to see what this stuff looks like. So I'm just going to punch it open. It looks exactly the same. So it's a rust-colored putty. Before I do anything, though, I'm not sure you can see this. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There we are. So you can see the fins got chewed up here, a little bit here, and here. And it's sort of smashed in there, and in case it actually caused any of the fin to sort of spread out as it smushed, I'm just going to sand really quickly and really lightly. So I've got a piece of, this is probably 400 grit sandpaper. I'm just going to sand the sides. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the putty on, and I just want to get this back to its original shape. So I'm going to sand off any bits that are jutting out from the side. I'll take the nose cone off so I don't hit my camera rig here. I'm not going to overdo it. I'm not sanding off all the primer just yet. I'm just trying to take off any excess jagged pieces of wood that are sticking out. This one's not so bad. All right. So this should be pretty simple. I'm not going to put a bunch on. I'm just going to smoosh on a little bit. Smoosh. And the stick is just in case I have too much, or if I want to try and shape it or spread it anywhere. It's a little thinner. I mean, it's a brand new tube, so maybe it's just because it's the beginning of the tube, but it's a little thinner than the Bondo was. My last tube of Bondo, anyway. It's actually quite nice. It smells about the same as the Bondo. Slightly different. Smells a little more like nail polish remover than the Bondo did. Might not be a bad idea to open a window if you're working with this stuff. Alright, so you can see it's already starting to harden and cure. I'm just going to sort of smooth off some of the excess so I reduce the amount of sanding I have to do later. And that's that. I'm actually going to put that on a rocket cradle so that it can cure. And I will deal with sanding it later. Okay, friends, new day, new lighting situation. The Glazing and Spot Putty is now cured. It actually took about probably 2 hours to cure. It was a nice slow drying time, slow hardening time. And I already sanded a little bit of it off. Seems to work really well. All you really need to do, whether you're using Bondo or the Evercoat Glazing and Spot Putty, it sands really easily. Now, of course, you're going to sand through primer more easily than you're going to sand through the putty, and that's why I like to sort of take that coffee stirrer or craft stick and smear off the excess, because it is hard and you will have to sand through it, and you don't want to over sand the bits around it while you're just trying to fix this bit. So you see I got this little detail piece here that I made. And I'm going to have to sand real close to that. So I'm not going to do this entire thing on this video. The main thing for me was just to find out, is this putty comparable to the Bondo Glazing and Spot Putty, which I've used before? And it seems to be. Now I'm going to be using more of this because all of this primer, this is the first coat of primer, and I need to sand the entire rocket, especially the fins. And any problem areas where the sanding sealer that I put on the fins and then the filler primer hasn't filled any flaws, I can hit that with a little bit of the putty and then sand that down, and then I should be able to prime one more time and everything should look good. So I don't know if you could see this, but so I made a pencil mark on these fins to show me where to sand to when I was beveling the edges of the fins, and that left a little bit of a depression there in those fins. And so that's something I'll want to fill in, because that's actually deeper than the wood grain, so it's a little bit of a, I wouldn't call it a crack, but it is a line that I want to hide, I want to cover up. So all you have to do then, sand this stuff down, and then I'm going to reprime. And that's it. So I like this stuff. This was $10. I do live just outside of Boston, so things here are more expensive than they are in other parts of the country. Of course, inflation right now, as I'm recording this in early March 2022, is kind of nuts. But if you can't find the Bondo Glazing and Spot Putty, you can find this stuff. It works great, and it's basically the same stuff. So yeah, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Here's my hand acting. Somebody in one of my videos commented on my hand acting that I probably won't win any prizes for hand acting, but give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and look for more content very soon in the future. All right, catch you later. Bye-bye. One thing I almost forgot to mention. If you are looking for the Bondo, the Glazing and Spot Putty, you want number 907. Whereas if you can find the Evercoat Glazing and Spot Putty, you are looking for number 105018. That's, again, it's a one-part putty. It is not a two-part. You don't want to have to mess with any mixing of any hardeners or anything. Trust me, it's just a pain. Just get this stuff and you'll be good to go.